Beaches are back open in New Jersey after Governor Christie reached a $34 billion budget deal with lawmakers overnight. Christie, though, under fire for enjoying a New Jersey beach while it was closed because of that government shutdown.
We don't get a lot of time to spend together as a family anymore, and have them and many of his close friends and my daughter's close friends to be with us. I simply wasn't going to cancel that because Vinny Prieto couldn't get 41 votes for a budget.
Quinnipiac University poll showing 15% of people in New Jersey approve of Governor Christie, just 15%. Joining me now, Wendy Osefo. She is a political commentator and professor at Johns Hopkins University. And I'm also joined by Beverly Hulburn, president of District Media Group and fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Thank you both for being here on this 4th of July.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Well, let's kick off. You guys have seen these pictures. One of the big things in this picture is that hat. And we have to remember that when this all started, Christie was challenged as to whether or not he got sun that day. He denied it, and later a press person made a joking remark that, oh, well, you know, he had that hat on. So when you look at these photos and just knowing how Christie and how the administration has responded, what are your first thoughts, Wendy?
I honestly believe that this was Christie's swan song. This is him saying, you know, I really don't care what happens. I'm going to do what I think is best. Unfortunately, as we see in that poll, he has a 15% approval rating, and this is not going to help him any. And I think it needs to be noted that his lieutenant governor, who's also a Republican, even said, you know, she's appalled by this, and if she had it her way, she'll be with the taxpayer. So, I just feel like he no longer cares what happens, and he doesn't care about his image.
Beverly, the waning days of the administration, do you agree with Wendy there that he's essentially given up at this point?
Oh, yeah, I would definitely say, as she said, it's his swan song. What I found so fascinating about it is that his initial defense was saying, at least it wasn't a 25-year-old blonde I was with. When your defense is, at least I'm faithful to my wife, you know you're in a bad position. And really, as a whole, this is shocking, the downfall of Christie. He was a GOP darling years ago, of course, a Republican winning in New Jersey. But I would say he's been out-bullied as far as the good bully title by President Trump, who really put him in his place in the 2016 election, and it's been downhill ever since then.
Let's take a little listen. Here's a little bit more from the governor on this.
Let's be really clear. That's our residence, and we have a right to be there whenever we want to be there. I don't apologize for it. I don't back away from it, and I think my poll numbers show that I don't care about political optics.
Just utterly unapologetic. He even had this to note on Twitter, that he noted that some of the New Jersey beaches were open, but that some beaches were open. He said, come and enjoy them, but use sunscreen and hydrate. Just not the beach that he was on, of course. Does this speak to how tone deaf he sounds? Beverly?
Yeah, I would say so, and let's take a look at this. We were talking about somebody who's supposed to represent the state, yet he's saying, I can go to the beach, but others can't. And in an era where people really do want politicians to drain the swamp, so to speak, it seems like there's a complete double standard. So I think Christie has just gotten to the point in his lame duck term where he says, it doesn't really matter what people think of me, I'm going to do what I want to do regardless.
Yeah, here we are closing, as you mentioned, swan song, Wendy, closing in on the end of his administration. What's next for him with these pictures as the kind of that final image of his time as governor?
To be quite honest, I have that same question, because if you want to close off strong, and that's not what he did here. There's actually is to be noted that there were 20 Democrats in the assembly who abstained from voting. He could have easily pivoted and said, you know what, this bill did not go forward because the other people on the other side of the aisle did not want to work together in a bipartisan manner. He didn't do that. And as someone who is Nigerian, and I know what it looks like when your politicians are living in the lap of luxury, and oftentimes, you know, the taxpayers are just looking for them to help them for the reason why we elected them, and he did not do that. I question whether this is the last time we'll see him in politics. But again, you know, this is not the way any politician wants to go out. You want to go out on a high, and unfortunately, the optics right now are not good for him.
You know, Wendy, Governor Christie was kind of called the Trump before there was Trump. But in this case, has he gone too far? Are people not going to like this final measure?
Well, you know, I think that he has gone too far, and I think that the optics are going to stay around for a very long time. However, you know, there's always the comeback kid. There's people who are able to come back even though they do things in which the public does not like. Right now, I just think he needs to lay low for a while and think about what his image is going to be if he wants to re-enter into the political arena. But right now, all I can see is him lounging with his baseball hat and looking up at the cameras, and that's my image of Chris Christie right now.
And Beverly, your final thoughts on what possibly could be the next image for Chris Christie?
Yeah, I would say he needs to go back to what really was his star rising, and that was being tough, but being tough against the right things. You're not being tough if you're saying it's fine that I was at the beach. You need to be tough against some of the policies in your state that aren't helping those in New Jersey. If he went back to that, I think he could potentially have a future, but let's not forget there's also other scandals such as Bridgegate in his past. He has an uphill battle ahead.
All right, Beverly Hallberg, Wendy Osefo, thank you so much for joining us, and happy 4th of July.
Same to you. Thank you.
It was certainly